Course title: How to Visualize Theory on the Instrument. Guitar Theory Lecture 11. Hello everyone, Robertinho here. Welcome back to the channel. Let's dive into another essential lesson in our guitar theory series. Before we continue building on the material from Lecture 10, I want to give you a crucial exercise that will significantly enhance your fretboard visualization skills. Exercise: how to play scales in multiple keys, shifting positions up or down the fretboard, and next jump into the pentatonic scales. Now, this isn't about soloing in all 12 keys within a single song. That's not the goal here. The true purpose is to give you a clear visual starting point to develop a rock-solid memory of the pentatonic scale across the fretboard, which we'll continue building on in the upcoming lessons. Mastering this one concept will tremendously strengthen your ability to solo over chord progressions using the pentatonic scale, a core topic we're unfolding in this phase of the course. Quick recap: if you've been following along, you've probably memorized the starting sequence of our theory journey, beginning with the circle of fifths, then pivoting to the circle of fourths, which is often more intuitive and applicable for guitarists. If you haven't seen the earlier lectures yet, I highly recommend going back to review them. That foundational understanding will help you make the most out of this lesson and the ones ahead. Today's focus: pentatonic scale visualization. In this lesson, we introduce 4 essential pentatonic scale patterns, which we'll use directly in our next class on soloing over chord progressions. But it's not just about memorizing patterns, it's about understanding the theory behind them. That means learning to identify target notes over each chord, the harmonic function of each scale tone, and how to make smooth, expressive transitions when the chords change. Visual tools to help you learn. Take a close look at the functional harmony color diagram provided. Use it to identify the tones of each scale pattern, the intervallic function of each note, and how these notes relate to the underlying chord structure. This approach will sharpen your ears, your fingers, and your musical intuition. Order of sharps. Also, refer to the order of sharps graphic below to deepen your recognition of tonal centers across keys. The order of sharps is E, A, D, G, C, F, A, sharp, D, sharp, G, sharp, C, sharp, F, sharp, B. At this point in the course, we're not yet working with flat keys, but stay tuned, that's coming soon. Starting with the pentatonic scale, a guide for beginners. So what is the pentatonic scale? Unlike the traditional 7-note major or minor scales, the pentatonic scale contains 5 notes, and it's found everywhere, in blues, rock, country, pop, and even world music. Its versatility, simplicity, and the absence of half-step dissonance make it incredibly beginner-friendly. That's why it's often the first scale taught to aspiring musicians, especially guitarists. Why start with the pentatonic scale? The pentatonic scale fits naturally on the guitar fretboard. Its shapes are visually intuitive and easy to memorize. It's the gateway to improvisation, melodic phrasing, and soloing, particularly useful in blues and rock. Learning it will give you the foundation to explore other scales, modes, and musical expressions. Step 1. Mastering the first position, the box. Every guitarist develops their own method of navigating pentatonic shapes. Some stick to one shape and explore creative phrasing within it using triads, intervals, and single-note runs. Others connect different positions up and down the neck. In this series, we'll start with the first box position, focusing on memorizing its tones and visual layout on the fretboard. Understanding the first position deeply allows you to break out of the box and explore connected tones in surrounding positions. Step 2. Practice with intention. Here are some essential tips for effective practice. Slow and deliberate playing. Let each note ring out clearly. Smooth transitions matter more than speed. Active listening. Internalize the sound of the intervals and how they relate to the root note. Improvise creatively. Don't just play the scale up and down. Build simple melodies and riffs. Explore the musical potential of the 5 notes. Sing the notes. This helps connect your ear, brain, and fingers, building musical intuition and strong muscle memory. Step 3. Move beyond the first position. Once you're confident with the first box, begin visualizing the next root note on the fretboard. Start small. Find a second root, return to the first, and play just 2 notes to create an interval. Gradually build from there. This kind of exploration is what eventually gives you freedom across the entire neck. A word on backing tracks. Now, let me be clear, backing tracks are a fantastic tool, but I don't recommend relying on them too early in the process. Why? Because this stage is about mental visualization. You're not just playing. You're learning how to see and understand the theory on the fretboard. Yes, playing along to a track feels great and can bring excitement, but don't rush that part. We often see students who can play pieces of songs they love, but don't understand intervals or can't play the song in full. Some stay stuck in this loop for years. So instead of rushing, focus on mastering the fundamentals. That's what will give you true musical independence. Final thoughts. Learning to master and musically apply the pentatonic scale takes time, discipline, and patience. Don't be discouraged. Everything I've said here is meant to inspire and motivate you. Remember, this scale has powered the playing of legendary musicians across genres. With focus and practice, you can harness its power and unlock your own musical creativity. I'll be guiding you through a series of lessons, each one designed to help you study and practice the pentatonic scale effectively and musically. So take your time, enjoy the process, and most importantly, be patient with yourself. Let's get started. All right, let's explore the sound of this scale over two different chord progressions. We'll be working with the 6-1-4-2 progression and the 1-6-2-4 progression. Take a moment to listen carefully to how the scale interacts with each sequence. We'll go through them a couple of times, and I encourage you to play the chord progressions on your guitar as well for ear training and internalization. At the end of this lesson, you will find an extra practice exercise designed to reinforce the memorization of each pentatonic key pattern we are studying. From this point forward, I will introduce one of the 12 tones in each lesson. This gradual approach will prevent information overload and ensure steady progress. Dedicate just 3 minutes a day to this exercise. Avoid rushing or pressuring yourself to memorize the tones more quickly. It will not yield better results. Instead, practice the exercise briefly, then continue with the main lesson presented here. With consistent practice over time, you will naturally develop complete memorization of all fretboard positions. Grab your guitar and follow along. Play through these ideas. C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp. E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp. E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, B, C sharp, E, F sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, A, F sharp. Thank you for being here till the end of this video, and I will see you soon. I can accomplish the next lecture. In order for me to do all this work, I ask you for your support. Please subscribe, like and share. Thank you very much. E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, B, G sharp, F sharp, E, C sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, B, 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 C sharp, E F sharp, G sharp, B, C sharp, E,